Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation with you today.
Well, I'm so excited to have you here. And I think our audience will really appreciate this because we have marketers on. I'm a marketer. We're like, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. But a lot of times it's like, that's what I'm trying to do and it's not working. And why is it not working? And they're just missing a few things. And you are here today to tell us what we might be doing wrong when we're trying so hard. So I just kind of want to kick things off with kind of a controversial opinion. And I want you to defend this opinion and say why. But you think social media might be a little bit of a waste of marketing dollars. And I want to know, where should solopreneurs focus instead? And what are some other cost-effective marketing tactics they can use that's not social media? Because I think that's where most people go when they just don't know better.
Yeah. Well, this actually came out of the fact that, over the past decade, I've spoken to so many, especially women, that have spun their wheels showing up on social media and wondering why it's not turning into sales. And one of the biggest missing pieces of the puzzle, especially as a solopreneur or when you're just starting out, is not to underestimate the importance of your network, like talking to people in your world, your friends of friends, letting everyone in your world know what you're doing and how you serve clients. These very basic first steps sometimes are missed. But at the same time, we can't prioritize social media over growing our email list, right? And I think a lot of us believe that if we just show up every day on social media, that our channels will grow. And as we've even seen in the past couple of years with the algorithm, if you're not playing the right game on social, it's very, very difficult to grow. And beyond that, if you're not investing in boosting posts or in ads, it's also very difficult for your content to even show up to the people that follow you. So even if you're putting sales messages through, there's no guarantee that your audience is even going to see it. So when I'm talking to founders, I think that first and foremost, what we need to focus on is growing our email list from day one in our business. And there's so many ways that we can do that simply by really being clear with people in our world. There's so many entrepreneurs, and I was victim to this myself for many years, where my own mom couldn't even tell people what I did, right? Because we don't make that effort to make it clear. And so we miss this huge opportunity with our existing network for it to be very clear so people that already love us can recommend us, right? And so, yeah, I think social media is a very powerful tool, but I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on it and too much energy in on it, and realize that social media is just a small part in your holistic marketing effort. And you need all of the pieces kind of flowing in order to see kind of the ROI on any of it. So that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, I was laughing because I overheard my mom telling people that I'm a creative director for an advertising agency. And I was like, I do neither of those things. Back in the day, I worked in an ad agency when I 15 years ago as an intern. And then fresh out of college, but I was never a creative director. And you're so right. The low hanging fruits. We interviewed somebody, Jonathan Price, a few weeks ago, the episode was just released, but he was like, I didn't want to tell people what I did because I didn't want to sound salesy. He was like, but when I told them what I did, that's how he started to grow. And so many people forget that.
But he did have a huge social media following.
Well, again, a huge social media following can be very useful, but there's a couple layers to it, though. And this is something that I've seen getting my hands dirty with clients, is that, followers don't necessarily translate into sales. And I'll give you a very good example. On Instagram and on TikTok, I think people are very focused on viral content. But there's tons of really interesting statistics that have shown, and there's a lot of people on LinkedIn or even on Instagram that have showed sort of the stats of sales on months that reels have gone viral, they do not correlate with new followers and sales rising. Why? Because a lot of times when we're creating viral content, we're not creating content that has anything to do with what we do, our products, and how we serve people. And so the problem is we're bringing in maybe followers that are not really interested in our product or service. They just think the content is entertaining, because a lot of the viral content is entertaining content. But what we need to do is try to really be conscious for the time, energy, and effort we are spending on social media, that any content that we put out is very relevant to speaking to our ideal customer and, reaching the people that are going to be prospects. Because otherwise it's just like a vanity metric. It doesn't matter if you have, that hundreds of thousands of followers, if they're not going to be customers, if they're not ever going to buy from you, it's kind of pointless, right? And so just like doing silly dances and stuff, maybe not right for your brand. So that's something that I like people to pay attention to.
I'm so glad you've talked me out of the silly dance videos, because I was dreading it.
That was it.
Victoria, it's interesting. You remind me of a guy I saw at Inbound last year, and a guy named Dale Bertrand, and he was basically saying that a lot of SEO, content for SEO, is the same thing, not driving sales. And that people are putting out this content that's getting, it's getting highly ranked on Google. It's generating clicks, but not generating any conversions because it's not the right kind of content. And I think you're saying the same thing here about how you approach social media, that you've got to approach it from the right perspective, or you're not engaging people that are going to want to buy from you. Fair enough?
And I think that when we create content, or what I teach to founders that I mentor about content, right? We have to consciously build the content that's going to bring people through the buying journey, right? And so we have to create content in different buckets that is going to move people along that sales process, right? From like problem aware to a solution aware, right? And kind of understanding, once they understand what the solutions are, helping them to make a decision that your product or service is the decision to make, right? A lot of times I think we understand that value-based content is really important, but what that content is just as important, right? We could be adding value, but still showcasing to people, right? What is the real problem, right? What is the real problem they're trying to solve? And really explain to them how our product or service solves that problem. That's kind of like the basic. We need to match the needs with the solution. And we need our content to do that for us, to help bring our customers on that, or our prospective customers on that journey. And that's a piece of the equation I think people get a little bit lost in. And that's when all of this content can feel a lot like a rat wheel, right? And how much is our content driving those leads to get onto our email list so we can continue the conversation? So if we have our social media flowing, we want always to be pulling people off of social media and into our email list. And there's so many reasons for that. The biggest reason being is that we don't own our contacts on social media platforms, right? So if something happened, like TikTok gets banned and you have 1 million followers on TikTok, but you don't have their email addresses, they're gone to the wind. But, so our work becomes, yes, we need to attract the right people on social. It's a great tool for that. And then convert them into subscribers. So we can, then we own that asset, right? That email address we own, and we can have that relationship until, until they unsubscribe, or until we go out of business, or we sell our business, or whatever. But the email list is really important. And I think that for solopreneurs and earlier stage companies, there's so much that we can be doing, just like within our own network, right? Or kind of manually, especially in the beginning. So we're really having those conversations. We're talking to prospective customers and clients. There's no way to skip that step, because that step is such an essential step to understanding the language and the problems and all of that stuff. And the more we know our customer, the better we can market to them.
So you talk about a marketing funnel that a lot of solopreneurs are missing and it slows their business down. Is this part of that or is that something completely different?
Well, social media is part of your core marketing funnel. So what I teach is I call the 24/7 marketing flywheel. And what this is are the 6 stages that essentially moves, from people, prospects first knowing about your business and what you do, all the way to sort of purchasing with you and becoming a raving fan. I didn't create this. This flywheel is part of your client journey, but this idea is the single most important thing that founders must focus on. Everything that you do for your business in terms of marketing has to be part of this flywheel, part of this client journey. And if it's not contributing to, reaching more people, getting those leads, those email addresses, converting them into paying customers, making sure that they are happy and satisfied, getting, testimonials and case studies for them, there's this process that always has to be flowing. And I think if it's not set up, this flywheel, oftentimes we're maybe throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. We could be in this situation where we're doing a lot and social media tends to be the culprit, right? We're showing up a lot, we're creating a lot of content, but if it's not part of a funnel, it's not going to actually turn into revenue. So the first step of the 24/7 marketing flywheel is your awareness stage. And for a lot of solopreneurs, this is a piece that's often missing. The awareness stage is like, how am I getting in front of new audiences, right? Now, in my opinion, if we want to look at ways that we can reach brand new audiences that is in our control, there are only 3 ways to do that. First is through advertising, right? Which may or may be in the budget, right? So we can reach new audiences through advertising. The second is through SEO, right? That Joe just mentioned. We're connecting with search and that can go beyond Google, right? We can be SEO optimizing our content for search, for example, right? But how are we making sure that our website or our content is searchable and answering questions that are paramount for our prospects? So SEO, so search, so ad search. And the third is what I call OPA, other people's audiences. And there's a lot of different ways that we can get in, with other people's audiences, either through partnerships with other brands or through influencers or even joining conferences, for example, or events. We're getting in front of a pre-made or pre-aggregated audience from another brand and letting them know about our business and what we do. But what I want to say in this regard is I didn't mention social media as an awareness strategy because of just how difficult it is to rely on the algorithm to serve your content to brand new audiences. When I'm working with marketing strategies, I think of my social media followers and my growth on social media and the new people I reach as like icing on the cake. Because you may be working on Instagram or TikTok or whatever in a moment where the algorithm is favorable to the users. But we've seen in patterns over the years how those platforms change from being, really rewarding the users, right? And a lot of times users are rewarded when the platform, the business, when it's advantageous to them. So, for example, when new platforms emerge, they pay us back handsomely for being active on the platform and creating the content because the business prioritized the user acquisition. So they want to get as many people onto the platform as possible. And by rewarding people for what they do with likes and shares and all of this stuff, it's advantageous to the platform. But as that model changes more to the advertiser focused, right? That's when it becomes much harder organically to get in front of audiences. And so the problem with relying solely on social media for your awareness strategy to get in front of new people is that the game changes. The game changes, right? The kind of content that's attracting new people, the kind of we've all seen like from the pandemic to now, it's like, it's video, it's shorts, it's reels, it's this, it's that. That's working. This is not working. And that's going to change, right? And so, yes, play the game, know how to play the game. That's really important. But the awareness strategies I mentioned previously are ones that are kind of tried and true, and you have more control over them. So that's my whole spiel on awareness. The next is the engagement phase. So once you've gotten their eyeballs and they know about you and what you do, you need to make sure that you have a piece of content or something that engages that audience and inspires them to give you their email address. Because as I said from the beginning, like the most important thing for businesses is to get that email address. So we can, again, we own it. It's like an asset in our business. If growing your list and being able to sell to people in their inbox in an intimate way, you have way more control than selling over social, for example. And so this is where we talk about lead magnets. So either, if you are a service-based business, this could look like a resource of something of value. If you're a product-based business, oftentimes this means like a promotion. This could mean a discount. This could mean free shipping. This could mean like a gift with purchase or whatever, something that we, need to collect their email address in order to get the benefit. So we need to have some kind of engagement piece set up in our business, right? So we got attract, nurture, engage. The next phase is nurture. And this is the stage where most people think about marketing the most. These are our weekly emails that we send, showing up on social media, right? Adding value. And this is a really important piece of the puzzle because in the nurture phase, we're building the like, know, and trust factor. But to our point before, our job also in this nurture content is also to make that connection with the client between what we sell and their problem, right? And how we solve their problems. The content has to build that connection. So that's the nurture. And you can show up, how do you show up each and every week for your audience and remind them that you exist, that your business exists, right? A lot of times, that simple reminder is so powerful. So we've got aware, engage, nurture. The next is invite. This is also a problem I see with a lot of solopreneurs as well, especially service-based businesses where we can build this audience and we're kind of doing this, again, from new audiences, we're nurturing them with great content, but we can't forget to ask for the sale. So in the invite phase is the moments in the marketing calendar where we're actually creating promotions. And my rule of thumb is at least once a quarter is usually a good cadence that you're building kind of a bigger campaign, a bigger sales campaign that's going to move these kind of nurtured, warm leads that are on your email address into action, right? To either book the call or buy the product or whatever. But we need to have campaigns set up in order to do that. After that invite phase, right? We invite them, we convert them into paying customers, but the marketing actually is not done at that point, in my opinion. In the next stage, which is the delight phase, is we need to make sure that our customers are super happy. And marketing can affect that quite a lot. We can do, we can have onboarding sequences if we're service-based, right? How do we kind of welcome people into working with us? Or that could look like the unboxing experience for products, right? That people are super happy and excited when they get the product and that they love the product. So that's the delight phase. And then the last phase is advocate. So we need to have systems in place where we're getting testimonials, getting case studies, getting referrals. And so our raving fans, our happy customers can help fill this whole system again. So this core funnel, this 24/7 marketing flywheel, in my opinion, for any business owner, the only job that we have in terms of marketing is to set up this flywheel and, make sure that each piece has activity, that there's something going for each of these pieces, and then iterating and improving on the performance of each of these pieces. And that's really it. It's not chasing a bunch of different ideas. If it doesn't fit as part of this core funnel, we should not get distracted by that, right? And we shouldn't take on too much. As solopreneurs, we should, we don't need 10 lead magnets. Let's just make sure we get one working correctly, right? We don't need to be on all of the social platforms for nurture. Let's just make sure we get one working correctly. I think that's where a lot of business owners get tripped up.
What if somebody's listening to this and they're like, oh, this flywheel sounds amazing. However, I heard about this too late and I've spent $1 gajillion on marketing and nothing worked. How do they rebound from that? Is it just starting to put this in place now? Or what do they do if they're in the hole and are trying to dig themselves out?
Well, I talk to a lot of people. Like, one of the reasons why marketing fails is that they don't understand that they need to set up this system. And so we hire people, we get people to help in our business. And the big mistake is that, yeah, we get like individual contributors or freelancers or virtual assistants or whatever, and they're executing things kind of in a silo. And they could be working on one thing. Like, let's say the example of hiring a social media manager, right? And this social media manager is totally focused on just like putting out content, and the things that they're held accountable to is growing the followers, right? And you're spending, I don't know, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month on this person. And then you're saying, how come it's not turning into revenue, right? Or, you have someone, you hire them for SEO and they're going to make your, website searchable. But again, if we don't have a lead magnet that's working for them to get into, and we don't have, we're not nurturing those people and we're not running campaigns to convert them, there's something that falls off. There's a leak. So what can we do if we're kind of like in the hole? So if we're in the hole, what we do is we step back. What I would say is we can kind of look at this from a strategic standpoint and say, how am I going to create this flywheel? So all of it doesn't have to be done at one time. And I think this is where the pressure, the stress comes in. No, of course, it's totally unrealistic to be working on all of these 6 phases like in one quarter or in 1 month. What I would do is first I would run an audit. I would first run an audit and I would say, I'm going to do, and by the way, I have a guide that's free that runs through all of these steps. And you can include it in the show notes. But if you go to my website, Ugli Ventures, it's ugly with an I, Ugliventures, ugliventures.com/overwhelm. Okay. So Ugli Ventures /overwhelm. There's a free guide that walks you through all of these steps. But the first step I will always do is an audit. And it's saying like, well, what's working and what's not working, seeing what's missing, right? So maybe you have, okay, let's look like awareness, right? Let's say, I'm working like with some partners sometimes, but a lot of times businesses have the biggest trouble with lead generation. So you kind of want to be honest with yourself and say, am I getting in front of new audiences? Like, really, am I? Yes or no? That's like how we do the audit, right? What's working or what's not working there? And think of all the activities you're doing, right? Next is you're engaged. Do I have a lead magnet? Yes or no, right? Do I have a way to get these email addresses from folks so I can continue to build a relationship? If the answer is yes, then the next question is like, is it working? Do people like it? Is it actually converting, like people giving me their email address? So we're going to answer that question. Next, we want to look at nurture. Am I showing up consistently on some kind of platform and adding value? The answer for that may be like, I'm everywhere and nothing seems to be working. And to that, I would say, we want to simplify to amplify. That's a Marie Forleo quote, which I love. We would say, okay, if we're kind of like trying to grow TikTok and Instagram and we've got a YouTube show and a podcast or whatever, the first step, like if you feel like you're in the hole, is say like, let's get rid of all of this except for one and just get really good at one of these things. And for business owners and solopreneurs, I love for them to connect to what is the one that they enjoy the most. Like if you're going to eliminate some of the social platforms, the barometer there is like, which one do you like to show up on yourself the most? Because if you hate Instagram, it's always going to be a pain in the butt for you to get into Instagram, you know? So for a lot of folks, it's like, hey, you know, you could, and with marketing, especially when it comes to like nurture, I always like to equate this to a diet, right? You know, if you want to get healthy and you're trying to look at like, what diet should I do? Like keto or paleo or like whatever, like what kind of exercise should I do? Like CrossFit or yoga or whatever. The reality is like any of those routes can get you the result as long as you are consistent. Any one of those diets, if you're just consistently implementing it, and any one of those exercise modalities will give you results if you're consistent. We have to apply that same to our marketing, right? If you like dibble dabble in all of these different tactics and you don't have a team to support you and you're doing it all yourself, you can grow in a lot of different ways. Just making the choice and say, you know what? I love showing up on video. I'm going to focus wholly on YouTube. Like YouTube's my channel. Or maybe like you love LinkedIn, because a big part of the equation for the nurture is also like being social on these platforms, engaging, answering the questions. Yes, you can get people to help you do that. But if you don't have the help, or even if you do have the help, it's very useful for you also to have a hand in it. And so don't like go against the grain. If you hate the platform or you hate the modality or whatever, don't make that be your one thing.
Joe and I tried TikTok years ago and it was not our jam.
No, if it's not your jam, don't do it. Because and also I feel like that the audience like feels that too. So you got to show up like where you feel the most like authentic and all of that. But so anyways, going back to like if we're in the hole. So we're doing this audit. So we're in the nurture phase. We're auditing what are all these different things I'm executing and how can I zone in on the one or two things that I can get really good at, or the team that I have can get really good at, right? And, you know, invite campaigns. And do I have a promotional calendar? Like ask that question to yourself, right? What's working or what's not working? You know, delight. Do people churn? They don't stick around as customers and not repeat customers. Is there something wrong with my product? Answer these questions. So, and then advocate. Am I getting testimonials? So you want to just do this quick audit for yourself. And then you're going to quickly see like what you have in place and where some of the missing pieces are. And then you're going to want to prioritize like what help you have on hand that can help you kind of fill in the missing pieces. And really, again, simplify to amplify. What are the simplest ways that I can set up one activity for each of these 6 stages and work towards that? And for me, I love this idea of doing that audit every quarter and then prioritizing like 1 or 2 things that you're going to focus on each quarter. And little by little, you'll fill out this flywheel. And it doesn't need to be all fully done for you to feel the benefits of it.
I'm glad you brought light to that, because I feel like a lot of people could be listening and be like, oh my gosh, this sounds like so much. And so for you to say you don't need to like just focus on what you can, you'll still get benefits, I think is so beneficial for some of our listeners.
And you also want to get into the shoes of that prospective client. And you want to look at the journey that they go on and put those pieces together and see if it like makes sense. Because when I say the only job you have in marketing is building out this system and then always improving it, it really is the truth. Because the difference between success and failure could be something as little as like, you know, yes, you're reaching these people in your awareness phase and you're sending them to this landing page. And if the landing page stinks or it's unclear or links are broken or whatever, things could be that easy to fix, right? But it's just paying attention to all of these pieces of the puzzle. And, you know, oftentimes it's not rocket science. Like if landing pages aren't converting and you sit there and you look at it and you're like, okay, I have some ideas on how this could be easier, or at least you identified an area where you can get help. And I think it's like we have to escape this mentality that it's the one freelance marketing manager or the social media manager that's going to come in and fix all of your marketing. A lot of these folks that I work with and I build teams, I help founders build their marketing teams. And there's this idea that this like freelancer, this contractor, it's going to do all the strategy part and build all of this. And that's the big mistake, because oftentimes these folks are really good at executing the one piece of it, but maybe they don't have the experience to build out your full, journey, your full 24/7 marketing flywheel when all of the things are playing into one another. And that's really where the failure, quote unquote, comes, and why we're pouring money into marketing and it's not seeing the results. That's why I'm such a big advocate for business owners to understand how to be the lead that their marketing team needs. And it's out of necessity. As a business owner, you need to know marketing and sales. Like, there's really no way around it. Like, without marketing and sales, like, you're not going to get revenue's not going to come. So it's the most important thing we can really focus on as solopreneurs and business owners.
I just think that's such a great point. You have tried it. You cannot outsource any of the real deep thinking part of this process. And it's, we've tried it at a couple of places and it hasn't worked.
Marketing can be very complicated, right? But I feel like at this kind of client journey level, on this marketing flywheel level, it's not rocket science. We as owners, as solopreneurs, we don't need to know all of the pieces of the puzzle for these individual tactics for marketing. That's why we get help and support from individual contributors, because it's like, listen, I'm never going to know everything about Instagram at any given time, especially since everything's changing. It's not realistic for me to. Or with organic search or with running ads, right? But we need to know enough to be dangerous, quote unquote, to understand if something's working or not working, right? And then we seek to get the help that we need. And this can be, and I think one of the big problems is like understanding how to ask the right questions and really understanding where the problem is. Because when we as business owners understand what the problem is, we can get the help and support. And that could look like, again, it could look like someone on Fiverr that's hired for a project base. Doesn't always mean a full-time retainer person on your team, right? That could mean like, hey, if one landing page you're having a hard time like converting and getting those email addresses, well, you can hire someone on an hourly basis to do an audit and give you some suggestions. Doesn't mean you need to employee up and make your costs go higher. So it's like, we need to know the bigger picture and kind of understand the marketing strategy piece, and then be able to kind of supplement the teams with these like project-based people when things maybe are a little bit more technical, because marketing can go very deep in all of these different areas.
But like you said, it doesn't have to. It really can be that simple. And we always say flying solo business doesn't mean you're alone. So team up, contract up, and figure out how to make it work for you. Victoria, I think this is so helpful for people that haven't heard about the flywheel. I think that really helps put a structure to something that they don't necessarily, that they wouldn't have had before. So you're helping them find success. And this is something we ask all of our guests. Since you help people find success with marketing, we want to know what your favorite quote is about success.
Okay, so my ultimate favorite quote, and I want to say it originally comes from Jim Collins, but it actually was repeated with one of probably the most successful CEOs that I've worked with directly in my career, which is, our job as leaders, as business owners, is to build our team, and then the team builds the business. And this is so true when it comes to marketing. So many of us as solopreneurs, especially, we're kind of fed this storyline that we need to execute everything ourselves, that we need to learn how to manage our own Facebook ads. We need to learn how to write our own copy. We need to learn how to, and we're scared to kind of invest in ourselves. But what we wake up then realizing is that we've not created the life of freedom that we wanted when starting our business. We've created a pretty crummy job for ourselves. where we work way longer hours probably than we did when we were at a job and probably getting paid a lot less, where we need to start thinking a little bit bigger. Even if we want to keep our business small and we want to keep a very lean team, we still, I think, need to be in this mentality and this idea that as business owners, we are leaders and we need people to help us grow, right? That's how we build a kind of scalable, sustainable growth model for ourselves instead of running ourselves ragged forever, right? In the lifetime of our business. So let's focus on getting great people to work with. And again, it could be freelancers or contractors or virtual assistants. Doesn't have to be full-time employees. But I know a lot of business owners that have had wonderful contractors working for them for years. Like, you could still have that loyalty and that power of the people, right? And they don't have to be employees, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is so helpful. Victoria, if people want to learn more about 24/7 or the 24/7 flywheel, more about you, where can they find you?
Yes. So the place to go is ugliventures.com. That is my company name, Ugli Ventures, because business can be ugly sometimes. But with marketing systems, we can make it beautiful. That's my whole jam.
And ugly with an I. ugly with an I?
With an I. Right?
UGLI
Ugli with an I.
Ventures.
So
okay.
ugly, UGLIVENTURES.com/resources. Actually, if you go to ugliventures.com/resources, I have a number of guides that you can, that cover, sales-focused marketing strategies, how to build an effective brand communication strategy, all on the website. But if you want to connect with me directly, you can get the link from the website as well. But I hang out on LinkedIn. That's where I love to spend my time. That's the platform that I love the most, that I enjoy opening up. So that's where you can find. You can send me a DM if you have marketing questions or whatever. I would love to help you answer them.
Wonderful. Well, we are also on LinkedIn, so we share that sentiment with you. And all of those will be in the show notes. But Victoria, thank you so much for taking the time today to be with us. I know I found it helpful. I'm in marketing, but it's always nice to have that refresher. So I'm sure it's helpful for those that aren't even in this field.
Absolutely. No, with marketing, I love this idea of like mastering the basics. That is really, I think, we get into that mentality. We need to master the basics with marketing. We will have success. The problem is that there's so many sexy, shiny objects when it comes to marketing. We get a little bit distracted, but mastering the basics and you'll be okay.
Great advice.
Love it. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. Listeners, we hope you enjoyed this just as much as we did. And as usual, we love putting on this content for you. We love showing up every week to do that and to continue to do that. Please give us that 5-star review, that subscribe. You know how it works. Please do that. We would so appreciate it. Otherwise, we will see you next time on The Aspiring Solopreneur.